Well, hello. We're back for another season of Dodgeball, and it's round one review. And this one's basically for it's really towards the newer people. But if you haven't played Center before, maybe you might learn something. So I don't know, stick around. It shouldn't be a long video either. So watch it on 1.5 or 2, and should be over pretty quick. Anyways, so today I wanted to focus on um, well, the main question I get from new people is how do I make calls, right? You know, we've all seen it where new people come into the team and they're not going to play wing, right? Because they either don't have the arm, right? They haven't developed their game enough to have the arm to play wing, or they don't really know what to do on the wing, right? And wing's very nuanced, and so we just chuck them in the center and we just make the call left, right, center, and then we just keep it super basic. Um, we don't really have the option to do that in VPL, so we kind of got to teach people how to make calls, and I kind of want to explain why we make the calls that we do as well, so that you can adapt in game and not just do the same stuff over and over again and expecting a different result. So, um, first things we kind of have to think about. All right, so let's just go back slightly here. All right, get our epic pen going. All right, so I know this is a Bears review, but for this specific example, we've got a kind of good setup here for the strikers. So let's just imagine that we're the center here. We're Mr. Lim, Sean Lim. All right, number 3. We're looking at the game from his perspective right now. Okay, so the ball's come in off the court, and we've got 3. So it's our attack. We've got to go up to the line. When I say up to the line, I mean this line up here, which I can't draw straight. This line here, all right? You have to go up to the line and make a play. And to make a play, we've got to make a call, right? So we look up, and how do we decide what to do, right? The wingers come in, right? They hear the call, and they go, "Oh man, hey man, what are we doing? Make the call." And you're sitting here going, I don't know. Do we just throw it at anyone? I don't know what's going on. And so our first order of operations, really, when we're looking at how to make a call, is we've got to look at where the balls are, right? So there's a ball here, right? There's a ball here. All right. First way to just get things out, just if they've got a ball, don't bother throwing at them, especially at the start of the game, okay? Because they're just going to block it. It's not a very like high percentage or efficient play, okay? So realistically, that leaves us with these 4 open players. Now, we calling them open is just another way to say players without the ball. So we've got 4 open players here, right? So ideally, we want to throw at one of those 4. Now, because we're at the start of the game, it doesn't really matter what the call is, as long as we throw at one of these 4. So we can call left, right, center, and then as long as it's at one of these 4, it's fine. Okay. If you really want to get into like the percentages of things and what is the absolute probably most efficient play, it's probably a center throw at one of the 4. Okay, so let's just play this on a little bit. Okay, let's just stop it here, clear everything, and alright, so again, those guys are out. So I'm just going to set things up again. Right. So why is the center most efficient? It's because of the distances to all 4 of these players are relatively the same, and you can throw at all those players and have the same body position, so it's harder for them to read where the ball's going. Alright, so that makes it the most efficient play. So, when we look up, alright, again, we'll just go back. So we look up, and that's why most of the time the call here is center. Alright, just center. Now that is the very most basic first play that you can run. Obviously you can call left, you can call right, as long as they throw at those 4 people. Right, but already we're running into an issue of communication and knowledge, right? So on a lot of teams, right, as a center, I might know that it's these 4, right? What if I'm Matt here? This is another Matt, by the way. But what if I'm Matt here and I know this, but Sean doesn't know this, right? And he might call center, but then what happens? Right? So the call is center. Oh. He's thrown at a winger. That's not really right. So how do we fix that? Right? How can we fix that? That gap in knowledge? Well, we can assign numbers, right? So if we go back again. Sorry, it's a lot of rewinding in this stuff because a lot of things happen quickly most of the time. All right, so we can assign numbers. 1, 2, obviously left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So now when we look up and we see our 4 open players, now we can call using the numbers. Crazy, right? So now the call might be center 2, or left 2, or right 2, right? And what that does is when we get up to the center, when we get up to the line, sorry, all of a sudden everyone knows it's going over here. Okay, and that is the most basic rule to making calls. Now we can add another layer on top of this. Okay, so this is just the first. For example, this is just the very first play of the game, right? And this first throw, we're just seeing how players react to it. Literally just seeing how players react to it, right? We're seeing, are they passive, right? Are they active? Passive? Active? Undecided? Bit of both, right? Passive. So what does that mean? What does passive and active mean, right? So this is passive because he's not really threatening anything. Like this is not a throwing action, so there's nothing coming back at you. This is active because he's in a throwing stance, and this could be coming back at you, right? There could be a throw coming back here. Right? Again, this is passive because it's not really a dodging stance, right? This is more of a catching stance. Again, catching, right? And the reason why it's a catching stance is because it's making themselves smaller, right? If you look at the target here, right, compared to maybe something like this, right, it's a smaller box, right? Again, this guy's kind of in the middle, right? I just want you to see like the difference in the sizes of the box, right? The feet don't count because we can just lift them up or we can pivot out of the way. It's this big body that most people try and hit. And again, even on our wingers, right? Look at this, right? His feet are together. right? It's a lot of area to hit, right? Even this guy. Right. Okay, but he's got a ball, so it's fine, right? So that's kind of what defines passive, right? And active. Active isn't just about standing up. It's about people who are like pre-dodging, or they're moving around a lot, shifting their weight. They're actively trying to dodge, right? And the reason this is kind of a trade-off. It's not bad, but it's not necessarily good, right? So the good thing is it means that the person that's throwing at them has to kind of like maybe try and predict where they'll be, right? And then throw to where they're going to be. But the downside is they're compromising their body position to where they're shifting all their weight onto one foot at some point. And when that weight is all on that one foot, then it's hard to move it again, and then that's like a timing to hit that foot. So there's a good side to being active, and there's a bad side to being active. And the same with passive. There's a good side to being passive, and there's a bad side to being passive. So it's just something that these like a personal choice kind of thing. But there are downsides to each, and it just so happens that for the most part, early on in the game, it's easier to take advantage of the active players than it is the passive players. And the reason for that is simply because only the center has thrown most of the time. At the start of the game, most of the time, only one person's thrown, right? And the defenders, they only have to worry about one person, right? When the game continues on a bit, people go out, people come into the game, right? The wingers start throwing and getting throws in. Then people's attention has to spread out, and then that's when you can kind of start taking advantage of those passive players a bit easier, right? So, yeah, basically we get the open players, we number them, right? Number the players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then everyone knows who we're throwing at, and we can start taking advantage of the active players. So, like I said, the active players, right? What would happen in this scenario, right? Let's just say this is now, let's say the first play of the game, right? Sean threw, anyway, say he threw at number 3, right? And we notice that number 2 was active, right? Then we go back on defense, we absorb a ball, and then we're back on offense, right? And we're at the line, and we say, okay, the call is now left 2, right? Okay, so now that we know when we go up that our winger is going to be throwing in, and how do we set up number 2 to put all of his weight on a foot? All right, we do a big fake at number 2, and then the winger comes in afterwards. All right, then he comes in afterwards and hits his foot, and that's really the basics of target acquisition, really. And once that winger comes into the game, these passive players, right? Now he's got to watch 2 people, right? And then maybe a couple of plays later, there's this guy throws, and now he's got to watch 3 directions. And you keep throwing in these fakes, right? And then all of a sudden, if he wants to catch, he's kind of got to turn this way, and then a ball comes in his off angle, and he can't get back quick enough to catch it, right? So we end up building the game around, at the start, around the center throw. Alright, so all the attention is on the center. Alright, And then once all the attention's on the center, okay, we can throw in a fake, alright, and then something comes in from the wing. Alright, and then we do it again, a big fake, and something comes in from the wing. And now all of a sudden, this kind of Venn diagram of attention changes, right? It goes from this where everything's looking at the center, all of a sudden, it starts looking like this. Look how messy this gets, right? All of a sudden, everyone's looking everywhere, right? And then anything can be a fake. This could be a fake. This could be a fake. This could be a fake, right? And then literally a ball can come in anywhere and no one really knows where it's coming from. So that's kind of how we build up the game, right? And then there's more that can happen based on what we do, but that then brings in like what the wingers do in response to what we're doing, all right? In response to how we build the game. So I don't want to go too crazy on that. I just wanted to focus on the centers and how we get to the point where we're setting each other up with fakes to hit targets. And that's really it. Okay, so very, very base layer to summarize, okay, our decision making. Okay, base layer, ball comes in, right? Wingers come in to hear the call, right? Winger looks up the court. Look first, balls, alright, eliminated. Balls eliminated. Alright, open players. Okay, first possession, open players. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth possession. Start numbering. 2, 3, 4, 5. Who's active? Who's passive? Right? And then wingers, who's countering? Alright, we didn't go through the counter part because it starts getting a bit too much. But those are basically the layers that we go through to decide who we're throwing at, who's throwing, who's faking, etc., etc. Alright. And with that, I think we shall end this one. And yeah, I'll see you in the next review.